Hello, hello. Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven, one of the best magical nights of the week. And I am your host, Patty Negri. No, wait a second. Hold on. I am your host, Richard-Lael. No. Okay, hang on. I am your host, Heather Greene. And you can see that Patty Negri is out this week. She is out doing magical, restful things in the witching world. And I am taking over. But before I tell you about myself, I'm going to pass it over to my wonderful other co-hosts. We've got Courtney Buckley. You want to start? Tell us who you are.
That's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, ghost bait on Scared and Alone, not a Shakespeare connoisseur, so tonight's going to go great. And I'm melting again because I'm trapped in a heat dome in Massachusetts. So,
well, hopefully you'll get cooler over the hour. How about you, Richard-Lael?
I am Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be. Before I go on, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Happy anniversary to our producers. And for those of you at home, many of you watch and enjoy. Just hit the like and subscribe. I know you want to do it. You really do. It's free. You want to hit that button. Also, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I'm a psychic in a medium. I used to be a psychic in a small, but now I'm a psychic in a large. Wait a minute. Never mind.
And thank you very much. And you can see tonight we do not have not only Patty Negri, we also don't have Jason Mankey. And so in place, we have our wonderful guests, a couple of people that you probably have seen before and we love having on the show, Thumper Forge and Tabitha Meadows. So Tabitha, why don't you tell us who you are since you're doing such a lovely dance?
I am Tabitha Meadows, medium and psychic, and I just want to say happy new moon and thank you all for being here.
Thank you for being with us today. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this movie. And how about you, Thumper, coming all the way from Texas?
Hello, I am Thumper Forge. I am the author of the upcoming book, The Chaos Apple, Magic and Discordianism for the Postmodern Witch, which is coming out through Llewellyn in November. And Rupert Everett is my twin flame, so I have a lot of good things to say about this movie.
Wow, something new and exciting to talk about. Well, great. Well, tonight, let's talk about this movie tonight. I think it is a Shakespearean classic, a Midsummer's Night Dream, perfect timing, given that this is just past the summer solstice. So we kind of plan that, I think, right? So I think the first thing we need to do, though, for all of those folks who haven't watched the movie and haven't read the play, or were forced to read the play at some point in their educational career, Richard-Lael has probably a synopsis and hopefully a very unbiased one, similar to last week's unbiased synopsis.
I do have an unbiased one, though I have to preface this by saying many years ago, I did the ballet version of Midsummer Night's Dream. And I actually did the exact choreography as Ethan Stifel. So I was much more talented than I gave myself credit. And the person that played Bottom was a real ass. He told me in ballet class, he said to me one day, you need a nose job. And I went, a nose job? I mean, I have buck teeth and you could maybe think of other things. And he said, yeah, it's just too perfect. And I said, well, I'm not going to get cuteness reduction surgery for you. Anyway, more about that. There actually is one more story I'll tell a little bit later on, a personal one about, I'll tell that one now, and then we'll get into this story because Courtney will enjoy this one. So, I was a little closet queen. I was a closet queen. And we were getting ready to do Midsummer Night's Dream, which strangely opened up on Valentine's Day. Why? That's not Midsummer. I don't know. I'm not Miss K with that. I was also in hair school. No one knew I was gay.
I did. I knew that.
And there was a young woman she had started doing hair school before I did. And so therefore she was in an upper class, even though I was older anyway. she was practicing waxing, and she did my eyebrows, which there's not a lot of work to do because they're naturally beautiful with little enhancements. Anyway, we were rehearsing for this, and this was the end of December, and so I invited her to a New Year's Eve get together, which was my birthday. And my father said to me, he on January 1st, he said, "Well, son, she's the one you're going to marry." And I said, "I don't think so." And he said, "Nope, you're going to marry her. I'm going to go to bed. Lock up when you leave. I'll see you later on." I went back to the guest house, which is where I stayed. I moved in because my father was ill, and he died that night. So here I am with all of the weight of my father passing and him saying, "She's going to be the one for you, son. She's the one for you. She's the one." So we went to the funeral, and she was my plus one. And she had heard that my parents knew each other for 1 week before being married for, oh, goodness, like 27 years or whatever. And she leans over and says, "Oh, that can be us." And I went, sure, okay. So we're driving along one day, like not long after this. This is like January 5th at this point. And she says, "Well, I always wanted to get married. I do." And I said, "Well, if I were to propose, I would do the traditional thing and ask your father." And she called me that night while I was at work and said, "Okay, so my father's going to be out of town and you have to ask him tomorrow night. Otherwise, he's not going to be there for 2 weeks." And I said, "Okay, all right." So I go and ask him, and he says, "Well, I thought you were gay, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I just thought you were gay. It doesn't matter." He says, "Just as long as you're good to it, doesn't matter." So I start planning, and I know that we open on Valentine's Day at the Coleman Theater in Miami, Oklahoma. They call it Miami, Oklahoma, but it's spelled Miami. And I had it planned out. I was Oberon, king of the fairies. And here's what I was going to do. I was going to, on Valentine's Day, in this beautiful 1920s Parisian-looking opera house in the middle of nowhere, we were going to go through all of the acts. The curtains were going to close, and then they were going to open up. We were going to take our bow, and then I was going to call forth all of the woodland fairies to bring seasonal flowers, all of the seasons. And then I was going to bring the acorn, the little changeling out, and he was going to bring out the ring. And then I was going to call her forth from the audience. And I was going to drop to my knee and then declare some sort of gesture of love. And then we were going to take hands, and she was going to say yes. And then they were going to play the wedding march from the final act. And we were going to go back upstage as those red velvet drapes closed. But by the end of January, I was really second guessing this because I had a little secret. I am a homosexual. And I'm thinking, oh God, I can't go through with this. I can't go through with this. I can't. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Tomorrow, when I see her at hair school, I will tell her we have to postpone. I have to think this over. I have to think this through because, again, I am a homosexual. She's not at school.
Oh, no.
So I'll tell her the next day. And then I hear that her appendix had burst and she was in the hospital. Oh, crap. Crap. Okay, it's fine. Not a big deal. It's not a big deal. We can focus on getting her healthy. That's it. Yeah. We can do that. Well, she calls me. Again, I'm at work, and she leaves me this voice message, which is, "Oh my God, my father just told me all about what is going to happen, and here's the plan. You are going to do your whole thing, and then you will call me forward, and my father will pick me up and carry me to you."
What?
Yes.
Ew.
And
It's worse and worse.
I know.
So I called.
This is so much better than the movie. Keep going.
This is the unbiased plot summary I was waiting for.
I call her back and I say, "Hi, sweetheart. How are you feeling? You feeling okay?" "Oh, I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm okay." "Well, I was really thinking, I'm going to be doing this show for 2 months. It doesn't have to be Valentine's Day. And I think we really need to focus on you getting better. Yep, that's it. You need to be better." She says, "That's fine."
Uh-oh.
Yikes. Uh-oh.
The F word.
I said, "Well, then I can't propose to you on Valentine's Day." I said, "It's fine." Oh,
I got goosebumps right now. I'm scared.
and I said, "Okay, well, all right, I guess, all right, well, feel better, I guess. Get well soon." Okay. So she calls all of the friends at school and she says, "Ah, he broke my heart while I was in the hospital." And then she dropped out of school. And then by this point, I surpassed her and I became the upperclassman, because you could do that with their school. And she comes back. And now she has shaved her head and she has a rainbow tattoo. And she says, "Oh, yeah, I've always been a lesbian. And her girlfriend was more butch than I could ever dream. Apparently, we both had a thing for fairies. But there's a little bit more, too." She says, "Now that I know that you really are gay," she says, "I have someone for you." And I said, "Okay." And she says, "Well, I hope you like men who are overweight and have bad skin and have rotten teeth." I went, "No, I certainly don't. I appreciate the thought. I do. Thank you so much. I will find my own woodland creature to..." Yes, anyway. So now about the film. That was
Whoa. Hold on. That was the best Pride Month story I've ever heard in my life. Thank you for bestowing that upon us.
King of the Fairies right here. King of the Fairies.
Round of applause, Richard-Lael.
Like I said, she turned out to be a big old Leslie too, and then we became friends, which was really good. So the film. Here's the story of the film. Courtney, I love you. The story of the film is that a nobleman is getting married, and according to the law, his daughter is to be wed, beheaded, or to become a nun, because she's not getting none. Oh. Anyway, she decides that she's going to escape into the wood to be with the man that she really wants to marry. She wants to elope with, but the other man has pursued her into the wood. Meanwhile, she had told her friend that she was going into the wood, and the friend was jealous, so the friend told the other one, and then there was all of this fighting. Meanwhile, in the forest, the king and queen are fighting over the changeling, over the acorn boy. So what happens now is that in order to play a prank on Titania, the queen of the fairies, Puck, who is actually Robin Goodfellow, he is a Puck. He is not, that's not his name. It's just like, I'm a homosexual. That's not my name. Anyway, Puck is this satyr who creates a magic potion out of the flowers of the field. And according to the legend, is that when Cupid's arrow hits it, it was a white flower, and then it turns purple and yellow. Anyway, it's not what they used in this film. But so Puck gets the flower and he puts it in the eyes of the queen. And then he, seeing the fight, tries to make certain that all that is right with the world and all of the lovers are together, all and the right ones. The problem is he mistakes Lysander for the other fellow that I can't remember his name. And then both men are in love with the one woman. And then the other woman is left trying to find the one man. And they go on this mad chase. And then meanwhile, these actors stumble into the forest to rehearse this play. And so Puck, being a mischievous little Puck, he ends up by turning that man, his head, into that of an ass, a goat. I mean, a donkey, not a goat, a donkey. And then Titania, the queen, awakens and falls in love with this ass. And she loves him, and she bestows upon him a fairy crown, which, by the by, in the Elizabethan times meant he had syphilis. Just so you know, that's what the crown meant in those days. Just so you know. True story. Anyway, so Oberon, king of the fairies, gets a little bit jealous and he gets angry with Puck because Puck has pucked it up. And so he tells him, go ahead and correct it. This one and this one and this one and this one. And he does. He corrects it and they are happy. And then he goes to awaken Titania as if it were a dream. And she, of course, falls madly in love with him because it was a dream. Why would I be in love with an ass? That's clearly not what I would do. Which, by the by, that was in reference to Queen Elizabeth I's frowned upon marriage, by the by. Anyway, I digress. So they stumble out of the woods. They are found, of course, naked, in compromising positions, and then of course they declare their love for the rightful love, and the actors decide the bottom, the ass, is turned back into the human, and he writes this play. And then at the end of the play, at the end of the film, they perform this play for the wedding of this person, this nobleman who was getting married, and there's a lot of whispering through a hole in the wall, and there's a lot of dying and applause. And then, of course, at the end, it is said that it was all a Midsummer Night's Dream. And so this is where we find at the end, Puck sort of comes back and he sort of talks about how that everything is right in the world, everything is brought back to light. And it was just perhaps a Midsummer Night's Dream. That is the plot in summary, with a little personal story on the side.
Thank you very much, Richard-Lael. I love the story and both the synopsis, and you did it all between the two ferns. So that is absolutely perfect.
And I'm wearing two ferns.
That's exactly right. Between the two fern leaves.
I don't know what they're called. I don't know.
Well, right now at this point, Patty would turn it over to me for some facts. So I'm going to go real quick with some facts so we can get to some opinions about this wonderful classic play and movie. So basically, I'm going to just run through them. Let's start with the movie itself. Was released in 1999. It was written in terms of the movie script and directed by the same person, Michael Hoffman. It cost $11 million to make. To date, it has only made about 25 million. So that's not considered very successful. However, it wasn't panned. You know, it wasn't hated. It wasn't loved.
It wasn't panned because it was pucked.
Well, there you go. And, you know, in our terms, really, I would say people kind of didn't mind it. You know, that's pretty much where it's at. They didn't mind this movie. They didn't love it. They didn't hate it. It didn't bring in a whole lot. The interesting thing is they did use the music from Mendelssohn that was originally made for a stage rendition of this in 1843. So they did use that. You can hear it throughout. They also changed the location. The original play was set in Athens, Greece, which I'll mention in a second. This is set in Monte Athena, Italy. So it's also set at the turn of the century. According to the notes that come on the screen right at the beginning, it says the turn of the 19th century, which I believe is inaccurate. It was the turn of the 20th century. So they made a little oops there. Definitely not definitely not the beginning of the 19th century. We had bicycles with lights. So that's that. Now the cast at this time in 1999, this cast is an ensemble cast. This is a well-known cast. Everybody, faces, and even many of them you know today. This is definitely a classic all-star casting. Michelle Pfeiffer, who is probably best known for her role as Catwoman. And oh gosh, there's a list. Look at the list right there. I don't even have to, and I'm not going to even say them all. You've got Michelle Pfeiffer. Again, as I said, we've talked about her in Stardust as a witch, Dangerous Liaison. She was recently she was Wasp in Ant-Man and Wasp, and she's been in a ton of stuff, of course. And the most classic of all her performances is Grease 2. We have Stanley Tucci. If you haven't seen him in Conclave, please watch this movie. It is excellent. It's more recent. He's been in Hunger Games. He does his Italy shtick. He has been in Devil Wears Prada. He's in a ton of things. Kevin Kline, of course, a classically trained actor. He's been around forever. So Sophie's Choice, Fish Called Wanda. And one of my favorites as a kid he was in is Pirates of Penzance. He's actually won Tony Awards for his performances. He's actually one of the best actors in this cast, classically speaking. Christian Bale, another one of my favorite actors. More recently, Ford versus Ferrari. Of course, we saw him in Pale Blue Eye, Batman. He was Dark Knight. He was in American Psycho. Just a very versatile actor. Absolutely classic. And if you really love musicals, which I do, you can watch a very young Christian Bale in Newsies, the Disney Newsies. Yes. Courtney, have you not seen him in Newsies? Oh my goodness. I have a child obsessed with Christian Bale, young Christian Bale, and Newsies. Go watch it.
Is it on Disney Plus?
I'm sure it is. It's a Disney-born musical.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And he is the star of it. So then you have Rupert Everett, Calista Flockhart, which if you don't know who that is, she was very popular in the 90s as Ally McBeal, and that's pretty much what she's known for. David Strathairn, Dominic West, Sam Rockwell, and if recently he's been in White Lotus, you can spot him. Bernard Hill. I mean, there's just one after the other, and even once I'm not mentioning, you go, I know that face, I know that face, I know that face. There he is. That's him in Newsies. Look at him, young Christian Bale, man. So yeah, so it's got an all-star cast, and so how could this go wrong, right? Now the original. So the original is, of course, Shakespeare play. Courtney, are you okay?
He is on it. It is on it. There's two, and I got really disappointed because I looked at there was one from 2017, and then right below was like, if you like this, you might like Newsies from 1992, and there he is.
And there, yeah. If you like Christian Bale, young Christian Bale, definitely watch Newsies. It's one of his earliest ones. So getting back to the
sorry,
getting warm over there.
Yeah, it was warm. Now it's hot. Oh boy.
You take off all your clothes.
So let me get to this as you calm down. This is going to definitely, this is the original. This is one of mine. As I've said before, I love reading Shakespeare plays and I have them all. So this is my copy that I've read a number of times. And it is the original play written in the late 1500s. They dated at 95, 96. Of course, with Shakespeare, everything's a little speculative. And as I said, it was set in Athens originally. A lot of Shakespeare's plays are set in ancient Greece or ancient. He was interested in history. So you have that kind of thing. And that's all I really have to say about the play. They took liberties, obviously. Every line is not there. It's actually a really short play. And this is one of his comedies. But what Shakespeare does in this one, and a lot of his plays, he does this. But in this one particular, he's really borrowing a lot from ancient Greek and Roman mythology, which was very popular at the time. And so setting it in Athens, he also decided to pull various things to keep the setting right. It's not perfect. It's It's not like we see in film. Often we borrow from other stories, bits and pieces to put together something to cue the audience. And that's what he's doing. You have suggestions, of course, of Ovid's poem, Metamorphosis. You have the Pyramus and Thisbe myth, and I don't know that one very well. You, of course, Theseus, who slayed the Minotaur. You have Hippolyta. You have suggestions of Herod and Zeus. You have a moment where you see a Medusa character. Puck, of course, is very much either a Pan or an Eros type character. So he's pulling in a lot of this stuff all over the place. And those are just suggestions. If you get into Shakespeare studies, you would dive deeper into this and find all of the various connections. But Shakespeare also lived in his time. So a lot of this stuff is very much relatable to what he was experiencing, to make the play palpable for his audiences in the period of time it was created as well. So you see, here we go. We're back in Newsies. This is New York. This is a very different time. This is probably the 1920s. That's a totally different time than we're talking about.
That's where I'm at right now.
Okay, so. Let's come back. Let's go back a few decades. So this one takes place in the late 1800s, not in the 1920s. There he is. There's our buddy Shakespeare.
If he even existed.
If he even existed. Like I said, lots of speculation when it comes to Shakespeare. But let's assume he does exist. So a lot of the stuff is wrapped up, like his ideas of Hera and his ideas of Zeus and Oberon and Titania, and everything is wrapped up into this kind of fairy concept. So you see a lot of stuff emanating from his time and from his thing, placed in a story that would be understandable at that time. And Richard-Lael already made some suggestions about how that works. So he's not very much different from a lot of the writers of movies today in that way. And the last thing to talk about in that respect is that this play is called Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a holiday that would have been celebrated then and in ancient times. Of course, the summer solstice, which has long been celebrated across cultures, Europe and beyond, decades and centuries. So, of course, this play talks about this particular time. And this is a liminal time. We call it Litha in some of our pagan religions. And it is a time that is, of course, fairies could come. And you see that here, this kind of idea of this crazy time, this special time, this time for marriage and love and all this stuff. The interesting thing about that, and I'll just leave this and then I'll end, is that notice at the end when the four, I want to say critters, the four characters are laying there naked at the forest. The main guy comes up on the horse and he mentions them lying there and says, oh, they were observing the rites of May. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that this play is not actually about Midsummer Night. It's actually about Beltane. And so, or May Day. So there's this kind of sense that, and I always associate it with Beltane, because Beltane is right at the time of Witches' Night and Walpurgisnacht. It is associated with fairies and fairy activity, going out into the woods and youth and all the things that we see in this. Love and fornication and all the various things that we see. This play is very much a Beltane play. And they even mention May here and there. Specifically, they are observing the rites of May. So it's interesting that it's called Midsummer Night's Dream. So I'll leave you with that. And now I'm going to hand it over to all of these wonderful Coven members to tell us how much they loved or hated this movie. So who would like to go first? Courtney?
I would love to.
Oh,
Courtney, we can hand it to Courtney.
Thumper, go ahead.
I have to share something that I read on Tumblr several years ago that kind of ruined a lot of the setting of different Shakespeare plays for me. And it had to do with somebody who had gone to see their cousin in a production of Midsummer Night's Dream. And the play opened with a high school kid reading the play in his bedroom. And he looks at the audience and he says, I don't want to read this play. And he throws it down, picks up a Chipotle burrito, and eats the whole thing. That's how the play opens. And then he goes to bed and the play starts, except for whatever reason, it's set in a rainforest cafe. And it's just the same play, just in this bizarre setting. But halfway through the production, the kid from the beginning slowly drifts by in the background on a skateboard, just watching the lucid dream that was induced by his Chipotle burrito. And then he's never seen again. And so, like, after reading that, it's hard for me to, like, suspend disbelief with the settings of some versions of Shakespeare. For whatever reason, I didn't like it being set in Italy at the time period it was. I think mainly because there are so many Greek references in the play, it felt weird to set it in Italy. I was not a fan of Michelle Pfeiffer's performance. I felt like she kind of phoned it in a bit. And I idolized her as Catwoman. And so it was sort of disappointing to see this interpretation of Titania, because I just didn't feel like she put a character into it. That said, I think the couple who really had the best on-screen chemistry was Oberon and Robin Goodfellow. I kind of wanted them to kiss.
Yay!
It was very A Midsummer's Night Brokeback Mountain for me. I loved it. But I also thought Calista Flockhart did an amazing job. She brought a really frenetic energy to that character that I thought made it really her own. The character of Nick Bottom really bothers me because I used to do a lot of community theater and I have been on stage with that guy. Like, I know it had to do with Kevin Kline's interpretation of the character, but it just was, it brought back horrible memories.
But there is a little truth. I didn't mean to interrupt.
The play at the end.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but there was a little bit of
go for it.
historicity to the character of Bottom that was actually one of the suitors for Queen Elizabeth I, who was an actor, yes. And even referred to him as Monsieur something or other. But he was an ace. There was a reason,
well, and that was why he was named Bottom. That was one of the puns in the play. But the play at the end, I thought was very touching. I thought it was very well done. I loved how supportive the audience was of the play. And so overall, like even the stuff that I didn't want to like about it, there was enough redeeming quality that really kind of made me still love it. And my absolute favorite thing, and then I will pass it to the real Courtney, is I loved that the fairies in Titania's court were just so over it. From the get-go, the first one walks in when they're in when Robin Goodfellow is having a drink and she's like, "I've been here, I've been there," and then when Titania falls in love with Bottom, and the fairies are just like, "No, not again." Oh, that I loved that particular interpretation. I thought that was quite brilliant. So that's all I have to say.
So that sounds great. How about you, Courtney? Since you got passed over.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, it should just be a good thing. I should be passed over for this because once again, as we all know, my brain just does not gel with Shakespeare. So in preparation for this week, Richard-Lael reached out to me and sent me Cliff Note things about it so that I could be more prepared. In addition to that, when I watched it today, I watched it with my friend Megan, who paused the movie every 15 minutes to get my attention and say, "Okay, do you need me to tell you what's happening now?" And then she told me what was happening every 15 minutes, and I still retained none. It's like it's a Pavlovian response. The minute Shakespeare begins to talk, I don't know if you can see it. You can roll the footage back because as soon Richard-Lael told his whole story and I was enraptured. And then the second he started talking, I disassociated. And then Heather starts talking, I disassociated. Thumper took over, I was laughing, disassociated. I can't. It's like an automatic switch in my brain. It's just like, oh, just stop listening. Yeah, that's me. That's what I need. Right.
Grab a burrito.
Literally me. Which is why, Thumper, that is a great story. And I feel like that would be the only way I could consume Shakespeare. It was that stupid. Like that I could just be like, oh, I relate to this so hard. So I watched the movie. My eyeballs perceived the movie. The whole thing. I could not tell you one thing that happened. There was I did yell at one point, boobs and butts. Is they're doing it? Is the doing it happening? but even that couldn't hold my attention, because then I just disassociated again, and suddenly we were somewhere else. I didn't understand. I missed somehow how he became the donkey. I guess I didn't know, but he had ears, and that was exciting.
Turned him into a donkey.
Right, but I missed that whole part while looking at the television. I missed that entire part. Okay, and all of a sudden I came to, and he had ears, and I was like, okay, well, sure, I guess
He was layered like an onion.
Right.
Everybody likes onions.
That'll do. I literally, I don't know the amount of people today that said, "What movie are you doing this week?" And when I told them, they were like, "What are you gonna do?" I was like, "I don't know. Come on and yell at everybody." Like, I don't know what to do. So that's it. That's my experience. Once again, I tried. I was prepared. I was prepped. There's so many things happened, and I still could not process any of it. So if you see me as everyone else is talking, doing this, it's because the switch has flipped and I'm gone again. So that's my experience with this.
Thank you, Courtney. How about you, Tabitha? Were you glazed over as well?
Sometimes, yes. I honestly, I wish that they would have taken this movie, and I know that, it's important that they stay as true as possible, but 1999, it just would have been a little bit easier to maybe take the words and translate them to where people can understand them better and have a better experience. But get ready to disassociate again, Courtney.
It's already happening. It's already happening. My eyes are glazed over.
I love that this is a movie about love, because I love love. Love's infatuation, love's miscommunication. I love the set and the wardrobe. I love the fantasy and the magic of it. There's some things that were more things about love that were seen throughout the movie. Love is a dream. It blurs the lines between what's real and illusion. Love's uncertainty. The characters experience love's fickleness as they fall in and out of affection due to magic, and also just for no good reason. Love's transformative power. Love is a force that brings people together. There's other things like order and disorder and chaos. I figured you'd like that, Thumper. Yeah. And talking about Puck again. And again, with love. So Puck is told by Oberon that he has this potion and he needs to apply it to the correct people, but he does not. He applies it to Lysander, and a whole thing ensues. But by the end of the movie, it corrects itself. But what I really wanted to talk about was love and love potions. And as a witch,
as a what?
Where?
A witch. A witch.
Who? When?
A whole witch. One of the biggest...
I came back for that one.
We are in it now, y'all. One of the biggest things I see in the communities is the want of love spells. And I've even seen people say, help me with a love spell. He has a partner already, but I want him to be obsessed with me. I'm like, oh, Lord, girl, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful with your intent. Whew, because you just might get it all and then some you don't want, right? So again, I'm not someone who tells someone what they need to do. It's just my opinion that it's not ideal to force someone's will or control their emotions in regard to love. So, and in this, let's see, Puck, he uses like a wild pansy. But there's other various ingredients like honey or sugar for sweetening.
I'm a wild pansy.
Wild pansies, yes.
Tonight.
But again, intention really is always the biggest factor. I mean, when you're dealing with love, you probably want to ask for someone who's for your best and highest good. You know, that's just my opinion. I love you guys.
With all of the hexing and everything else that I do, and all of the black magic and the things that people are scared of that I don't bat an eye at and I will just get right into, I will not touch a love spell with a 10-foot pole. Absolutely not. You could not pay me. I would not do it.
I do.
It's
I have
dangerous.
a personal story. Can I tell you a personal story? A love spell personal story. So happy Pride. I'm going to be very personal, very personal. Many years ago, I met someone on Craigslist. That was how long ago it was. It was on Craigslist.
A Craigslist Pride story? I'm set.
And it was actually right around this same month, by the by, because it was Pride Month. And he messaged me, and he wanted some. He wanted to hook it all up.
Get hooked.
I said, certainly. Come over on Saturday. Come over. And I got all ready, and I had turned the lights way down low and soft candles and soft music, and I waited and waited and waited.
Oh.
And I went, fine, he's not showing up. And I extinguished all the candles, and I pleasured myself as only one man can, and I went off to bed. It was better anyway.
Ah!
Well, a week later, he messages me and he says, "Oh, I am so sorry. Can we meet up? Because I got high. I was smoking. I got stoned. I was enjoying myself."
He fucked up.
I said, certainly, come on over. But if you forget, you can forget my number forever. So he came over, and all night long, what a devious SOB I was.
Oh.
Because all night long, I drew little things, all little hearts and little things all over his skin with my finger. And I told him, as we were doing the rite of Pan, thank you, Nathan King, I told him mentally that he would fall passionately, madly in love with me, that he would lust after me, that would be the way that it was. And then he did, and then I did. And then he said to me one day, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like you cast a spell on me." And I said, "What? Me? What?" And then we dated for a while, and then it was a devious, a devastating, dreadful breakup. And then I moved from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and I did not speak with him for a year. And then I had to reverse that spell, because anytime I was on a date, he would call me up. It was like instinctively, he knew. So I broke the spell. Now, all of these years later, we are friends. We are drear fiends, and we speak on occasion every couple of weeks, every month. So I do love spells, but maybe not as much as I used to.
Well, how'd you like the movie?
And you know what? There are elements that I really, really enjoyed. I'm going to tell you the one element that I loved the most. I loved the fact that in Shakespearean time, all of the couples would have been male. I loved that. I could not help but see that. Also, the fact that the play was so accurate to the historicity of an actual Shakespearean play, and they had a male dressed as the lead in the play, in the film. I loved every second of the play. Again, I agree with Thumper. I think that Michelle Pfeiffer really phoned it in. Calista Flockhart was okay. But I do think that Stanley Tucci and, goodness, what was his name?
Rupert.
That guy, Rupert Everett. I do think that Rupert and Stanley had a great on-screen chemistry. They really rescued the film, I think. And even though it was, I loved the costuming. I do wish that they would not have put it in Italy. I wish that it would have been back in Greece. I don't know that I love the 19th century with it, but at the same time, I do love the 19th century. But their bicycles, the bicycles could go the F away. They could go the puck away. The bicycles were driving me crazy. The naked bodies were great. The magic was, I mean, it was, there were so many things that were wrong, but there were so many things that were right. And Kevin Kline was brilliant in the role. I actually really enjoyed, for the first time, I enjoyed being a bottom. I mean, bottom. I enjoyed
Bottom.
Well, before we go any further, before we go any further, Courtney, do you have quotes?
I have one quote. I feel like Richard-Lael might have known that I would only have one quote, and that is why he came prepared with so many glorious stories this week, to save me from having to do too many. So this is the one, other than the bikes, because the bikes, every time the bikes came on, I was like, why the puck are there bikes? Like, what is happening? I don't understand. So other than that, and screaming Stanley Tucci the first time he came on screen, this is the only part of the movie that caught and held my attention. It was Helena when she was chasing after Demetrius, and she said, "I'm your spaniel, and Demetrius, the more you beat me, I will fawn on you. Use me, but as your spaniel. Spurn me, strike me, neglect me, lose me, but give me leave, unworthy as I am, to follow you." And that just spoke to my heart in ways that I will not discuss on this podcast. So
I knew you were going to quote that. I don't know. I knew that was, you were going to pick that one up. I don't know when it came on. I'm like, Courtney's going to find that one.
Yeah, it's because I, that's the kind of energy that I put out into the world also. So I vibe with that.
Well, I'm going to share real quick. I've already shared that I am a big fan of Shakespeare. And I'll do this real quick because we need to vote soon. But I have a special connection to this. And the movie was okay for me. I think for the same reasons as Thumper, Richard-Lael, and Tabitha said. I love the love. Had problems with some of the performances. And, it could have been better, but it was fine. It was fun. I didn't mind it, just like most of the people. But I have a special connection because this is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. I actually named my sweet cat, who passed in 2017. There he is, Puck. Aww. And you can see he was a very unusual cat. He wasn't spunky and weird and messed things up. He was very chill and zen. I always thought he's either the dumbest cat in the world or perhaps the smartest. We could never know. He always had his eyes half closed. And he did things that I can't talk about in front of people. I can't talk about here, but he did those in front of people. And people that had actually spent time with him actually remember him because he was very strange to the end. But the special thing about my Puck is that he was my spirit friend. He bonded with me very early and very young, and he was getting sicker and sicker. And he passed 1 week after I finished the manuscript to my book. Aww. And a couple weeks after I met my current partner, Ben, and he hung on so long and waited till he knew that I was going to be okay because I had a very rough year that year. And he waited and waited and he held on. And then that day he came up and he sat on me and purred and then peed all over me, and that was his way of saying, it's time. It's time. You're going to be okay. You have a new spirit friend. You finished your book. You're going to be okay. I'll see you on the other side. And in tribute to him, he is on the cover of my book. That's Puck. So he was very, very special to me. And this he was named after the character of Puck. And I have actually in theater as a theater minor. I was a theater minor. Done the speech at the end. If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. And I read that to him a bunch of times. He had no idea what I was talking about. He was so zen. It's like a cat that would walk around. It's like he was smoking pot in like some back room somewhere all the time. But he was very, very special, and to me. And I just wanted to share that with y'all. But that's my special attachment to this movie or to this play, my sweet Puck. And
Heather is the one getting hexed this week for making me cry about Shakespeare. No, why would you zoom in on my pain?
I will share more pictures of his shenanigans with you guys because you would laugh hysterically. He was a great cat. He was weird in the way cats are not weird, because all cats are weird. But that's my connection. And so
Got him on the cover of the book.
Heather, I do have an Oz-related question for you.
Wait, Oz. That's not the movie tonight, Thumper.
It's not, but I promise I have a point.
Okay.
So in the script, it talks about Cupid's arrow turns the flowers from white to purple. But in this movie version, the flowers turned red, and they looked to me like poppies. Were those poppies?
You know what? I didn't look at them closely. I have no idea. The poppies in Oz are orange, tend to be orange.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure they're orange in the movie. But I don't know. They seem to be just a random flower to me. I didn't look closely.
Okay, because I had a theory that Puck was actually drugging everyone, and that's why it wasn't love potion. He was giving them opium.
The rose is red. That's Alice in Wonderland.
Touche.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure. But, on this note, we're getting to the time. We do need to vote before we close up and say our soliloquy. So let's see. Wands up, wands down for Midsummer's Night Dream. Some fairy bells.
That's horrible. Like, this is why the roller coaster of emotions, and it's all Heather's fault.
I'll turn it this way, okay?
That's even worse somehow. I still feel like you can see me. I'm voting up for
chat. I'm not seeing any responses in the chat. Maybe my Puck story is jocked everything.
No, I'm voting up for Puck, for the Puck story. I'm voting up for the Puck story.
Welton is up.
Up. Wands up. We've got one. Oh, we got everyone's wands up for this movie.
The flower should have been Viola. This is also true. But hey, it's a stupid movie. Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, I'm up for I'm voting up just because of the play for more than for the movie itself.
For the play.
Unable to understand the movie. One's down. One's up. One's up.
That's where I was, Robert Hicks, until the Puck story, and now I can't, in good conscience, cry and then vote down. So
you can vote it down. It's a movie.
I can't.
Wands up. Okay. Well, there we go. It looks like we have mostly wands up for this, which pretty much coincides with what we saw with everyone else in ratings for this movie. It's kind of okay. It's good enough. So, with that said, what's our movie for next week? I know Courtney knows what it is. Go ahead and
I do. In a shocking turn of events, we are watching this movie early. It involves a shark emerging from a piece of driftwood that has a Ouija board on it. It is none other than Ouija Shark. Yes! I'm so excited.
In case I'm not here next week, what's up?
Thumper, can you just come back though? Can you just come back anyway next week so you can join us for Ouija Shark? I just want to read a text that I sent to someone today. Let me see if I can find it real quick. sorry. I said, they said, what are you going to do? Sounds like you're going to spend the rest of the night frantically Googling about Midsummer Night Dream. I said, I'm just going to yell a lot about how I can't do Shakespeare, and yet you make me do it anyway. And then I said, next week is stupid, dumb horror that's going to be hilarious. So I'll suffer through this to get to that. So, Ouija Shark. Put it on your calendars, everybody. Don't miss it.
Next Wednesday, same time, same bat channel. Let's go. Same witch channel. So what's everybody got going on this week? Does any I heard you, Richard-Lael. Where can everybody find you? What are you doing, Tabitha?
I don't have anything coming up right now later on in the year, but you can find me on the socials and under Traveler's Light 1111. Yeah.
And Thumper?
You can find me everywhere on the socials at Fivefold Law. My next big appearance is going to be in November, the weekend of November 10th in Cleveland at October's Books for the launch of the Chaos Apple. And in the meantime, I am going to be sequestered and doing a lot of research. In fact, my phone is resting on a pile of the books I have to read because I just signed another contract and I have another book to write.
Yay!
Boy, am I looking forward to that one. And Richard-Lael?
I am really easy to find.
What?
I am the Gentleman Psychic. I'm a psychic and a medium. I am here in New Orleans. Also, time is running out for booking next summer's travel, by the by, which is we'd be going to Scotland. So you go to tracelesstours.com and then you would go to the Sacred Tours. But time is running out. So if not, it may not happen. But other than that, I'm really easy to find. I'm a little bit of everywhere. Richard-Lael I'm easy.
What's the deadline? Is there a deadline for that signing
Pretty
up?
soon, by August, like the middle of August. So pretty soon.
That's getting close, yeah.
Because they have to pay. We'd have to pay all the hotels and the staff, book the rooms in advance. So for them to hold, we have to have a certain chunk of change. So if you are going, great, get on it. If you're wanting to go, don't delay. Act now, don't delay.
And Courtney?
I am at the themes on all the socials. I am finally in. Oh my god, yeah, we're gonna need a bigger board, is right.
Courtney, the Jaws just celebrated its 50th anniversary, so we may do a follow-up. We may have to do a two movies in a row.
Yeah,
Ouija Shark and then Jaws.
Right.
And then Jaws 3D.
Right.
And
like
Sharknado?
Oh my god, Sharknado! Don't talk to me about Sharknado. I love Sharknado. And Shark Exorcist. And have you seen the Shark Exorcist? This is what I will be doing for the next week. Shark Exorcist, real quick synopsis. Shark bites person, kills them. The town hunts the shark and kills it. The ghost of the shark comes onto land and possesses people who then grow teeth and start biting other people, and they have to call the Shark Exorcist. It's the greatest thing ever. So
calling in sick for a week. I will be glued to my streaming.
That's literally what I'm doing. Shark horror movies for this whole next week to celebrate summer. So if you'd like to join me, send me your recommendations at the themes on all the things, and I will be, underwater. So there it is. Look at it. Satan has jaws. Yeah, he does.
My heart. My heart exercises.
It's so good.
And Colin asked if there was a witch in Jaws, and I don't think there was. I don't believe there was a witch in Jaws. Sorry. It was
magic. Count. It was magic, though.
It was magic for sure. Mm-hmm. So, and I guess that's it. So I guess I didn't introduce myself at the beginning, but I am Heather Greene, and I am filling in for Patty this week. I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, a critical history of witches in film and television. I am also a journalist and an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, working with great authors like Patty, who is not here, and Thumper, in fact. So, and Thumper's book is excellent. I've already read it. And so is Patty's. There it is, Dollcraft. You can get that, I believe, at pattynegri.com. And you can get my book as well, I think, at Mystery Control, as well as Patty's. So like us, and I was going to say like us and subscribe us. That doesn't make sense. So subscribe, like us, find us, talk to us. Go to Witches Movie Coven, like and subscribe. There it is. Talk to us on the socials. We love that interaction, and we love hearing from you and what movies you want. And of course, and Jason is not here tonight, so include him in that as well. And I guess we have one less thing to do, everybody. Time to cackle. Ready? 1, 2, 3.